Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Autism Confidential, the podcast from the National Council on Severe Autism. I am the almost COVID-free Jill Escher. Well, I'm negative, but I think those of you who have had COVID, sometimes you know it lingers, and it's definitely lingering with me. But I'm definitely feeling better. This week, we have something we've never done before, which is we have a repeat guest. Yay!
I was hoping I'd be the first.
Yes, you're the first. This is episode 29, or almost to 30. Oh my goodness! So I guess it's time for us to, to revisit some old friends who've been around for a while. And pardon me as I cough and sneeze, everybody. I don't mean to, be rude. But our guest today is Tom McKean. And you might remember Tom was actually one of our early guests. Tom has a very interesting background. I won't go into the details. I'm instead going to encourage you to take a listen to the first episode we had with Tom. But Tom was one of the very, very, very first autism self-advocates. And he had worked with Temple Grandin at Autism Society of America. And he had written books, and he was a speaker, and he was diagnosed as a child, obviously, as you can tell, a very different kind of autism than like my kids have, and that your kids have. But he definitely had a very challenging childhood, and he has emerged as an incredibly kind and thoughtful and caring personality in the autism wars.
Thanks.
Yes, it is true. It is true. And a guitar player, which is possibly more important, because my favorite people are guitar players. So Tom, thanks for coming back.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, and it's good to actually kind of take a break from the last many episodes that we've had have been really focused on kind of a stricter interview format with professionals talking about specific subjects. And today we're going to go back to one of our favorite topics, which is the bullying of autism parents, which is something you know too much about, something I know too much about, and something we have to waste too much of our lives on, unfortunately. But Tom's really notable in that, he has really stood up for parents against the sort of online pile-ons, right, by people who are hashtag actually autistic, against parents. So, Tom.
Hi.
Hi, Tom. You're in Ohio, correct?
I am. I'm in the central Ohio area around Columbus.
And he lives with his sister in a house and a dog. And
yes, I am the creature that lives in the basement.
He's the creature in the basement with the new teddy bear who doesn't yet have a name. Pardon me as I cough. So, Tom, when Tom, and I'm putting words in your mouth, when you started in autism advocacy, the contempt and sneering like against autism parents was not a thing. Like, this is a phenomenon that really came into being in the last 10 years or so.
No, it wasn't a thing, because when I started in autism advocacy all those years ago, the kids were nonverbal and rocking in the corner.
Right.
So people like me didn't exist at that time.
There were very, very few of you.
Right.
Yeah. And certainly Temple Grandin, your friend, was not contemptuous of autism parents at all. I mean, she has been very proud of her mother, for example, and how her mother gave her the quote unquote loving push, right? That Temple credits her for her success.
Right.
Yeah. But things have changed. And I'm not on a lot of social media. I'm on Twitter, kind of, sort of. I'm not on Instagram or TikTok, whatever. But I see enough of it on Twitter, that it is very ugly. It's a very ugly, weird phenomenon. and I have a hard time understanding what's behind it. I'll give you some examples of recent tweets, that I've seen. I've seen people complaining about the term severe. I've seen people complaining about the term profound. I see people complaining about functioning labels. I see people accusing parents of torturing their children, of being so selfish that they only care about themselves and that their children are only a prop in their lives. They accuse us of wanting to kill our children. They complain when we use pictures without our children's permission, even if our children lack capacity to give permission. We are apparently eugenicists on top of everything else. I have a lot of examples, but Tom, do you see the same phenomenon?
And they do all of this without knowing who the parents are. They never talked to them, never met them, have no idea what they go through day to day. These are complete strangers to them, and yet they make all those accusations anyway.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. I've had people accuse me of hating my children. This is crazy. I've had people call me, ableist, eugenicist. All these labels, and I'm like, have you ever asked about me? Do you know anything about me at all? I mean,
They don't
like,
want to.
did you ever like said, hey Jill, let's talk? Like, do you know anything about my children? Anything? Nothing. It's just sort of like
Right.
they have this playbook, and they have these little blurbs that they just seem to repeat incessantly, like a
The
little
best thing parents
broken
can do
record.
is listen to the actually autistic, like
Yes,
that.
yes, I do listen to actually autistic. I'm friends with many people with autism, and I do listen to them. It's not like I'm in my hermetically sealed bubble and you are excluded from my world and I will not listen to you. It's like, no, I listen to these people all the time. I
Well,
mean,
thank you on behalf of the autism community then for listening to us.
well, yes, sometimes the advice is not great. So I have a good friend. And she's wonderful. She has high functioning autism. And yes, I will use functioning labels. She
Okay,
suggested
let's talk about that. Let's talk about functioning
functioning labels.
labels.
First, can I tell you? Okay.
Let's start there.
Well,
Okay.
she suggested that when my daughter was 12, that my daughter start smoking pot. Like, I just don't
Oh,
think
cannabis.
that that's
Yeah.
the best advice for her. But, she was sincere. She was trying to help me, and I listen, and sometimes you hear something that's insightful and sometimes you really don't. Um, but yeah, anyway,
Well,
sorry.
that is one thing going around. Smoking pot for autism. That is becoming a
Well,
little more
yes, I
popular
think
right now.
for some people, cannabis actually can be useful, but for my little 12-year-old happy daughter, like, it's probably not the best advice.
But see,
But
if your daughter is 12 years old, then you would be the parent, the legal guardian, whatever, and it would be you who would make that decision as to whether that's right for her or not.
yeah, yeah. Well, true. Pardon my
And
coughing.
that's something that you and every parent out there has a right to do.
Yes, well, they don't like the idea of a parent having any kind of legal or moral authority in the lives of their disabled children, um, which of course makes no sense, because if the parent who loves and cares for this child, doesn't do it, then who does, right?
Right.
Like, a perfect stranger
Well,
who's self-diagnosed.
if you want to set the functioning labels aside for a moment, I
Mhm.
think the problem is, or one of the problems is, because I've given this a lot of thought, having been bullied by them quite a bit. I think one of the problems is they're not understanding the parental view of autism. And I will admit that when I started out all those years ago, I had the same problem. I wasn't mean or cruel about it, but I didn't really understand where the parents were coming from. And that's because I wasn't a parent. My mother did these things to me and with me and at me and for me and against me and whatever that I didn't really understand. And when I started doing this work, and after I talked to, countless parents over the years, I've come to kind of understand where the parents are coming from and why. And I'm understanding, because of that experience, that the things they are doing is not because they don't love their kids. They're doing those things because they do love their kids. And that's what
Hmm.
they are not understanding.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I've come to know hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of autism parents. And I'm not here to say like every autism parent is perfect. There's, in the world of parenting, there's going to be a wide variety of parents. In
Right.
fact, we just had, of course, this has been in the news. There's this mom, she didn't have autistic kids. She killed her 3 kids, right? I mean, you don't have to have autistic kids to go crazy or do something absolutely horrific. But yeah, I, by and large, and very large, autism parents are completely devoted to their children. Yes, they've undergone some hardship, and yes, they have some trauma, but they almost universally want absolutely the best for their children and work very, very hard and give up, their lives, their incomes, sometimes their health, to do this work.
Sometimes their lives. Sometimes they die for their kids.
Give me an example, like
Feta.
Feta, like Feta. Yeah.
Oh, Feta? I thought it was Feta. Is it Feta? I never
Well, it
could
depends. If you
tell.
talk to her Muslim siblings, like Fada, like Fada. Yeah. But
Now, see,
to us Americans, she was
that
Feta.
must be my problem. I've heard it
Yeah.
pronounced so many ways. Is it
Yes.
Feta? Because I kind of like that, Feta.
We called her Feta because we're Americans and we don't speak Arabic. But yeah, Feta definitely died for her son. And that is, that's why I was asking, like, who did you have in mind when
Right.
you said that?
No greater love is there than this.
No greater love. And talking to parent after parent after parent after that tragedy. And for those of you who don't know, Feta was our founding vice president at NCSA. She died September 26, 2020, in a house fire after she ran back into the house to save her son Muhammad, and Muhammad could not be persuaded to go down the stairs, and they both suffocated and died. It was the darkest day, I don't know, of my life, and just reverberated around the world. And everyone said I would have done the same thing for my child. I would have done the same thing for my child. And and knowing that, knowing of our love and our sacrifice, you get things like this on Twitter, which by the way is not really the real world. Here, I wrote a few down. Why are the autistic community against autism parents? This is by a young man in England. Because they speak over us, think we have no agency, infantilize us, harass us, try to cure us, want to subject us to ABA, and they think they are the experts. They're also usually massively ableist and transphobic too. So we're a lot. That's a lot of accusation in one tweet.
It
But
is. It
that's
is. And
that's
they're
how bad.
saying
I'm
that to
like,
people.
I didn't know any of that about me. I honestly,
They're saying that about people they don't know.
they don't know. No, they do. They live in their kind of fictional other world, um, where they've sort of made up kind of caricatures of parents. Like literally like, out in the Twitterverse, there's like a caricature Jill Escher that people are attacking, right? This martyr mom, this grievance parent, this horrible mom, who is like bears no resemblance to real Jill Escher, right? But that's kind of what they do. They're sort of attacking this caricature that doesn't exist, and they don't really ever reach out, to say like, hey, let's talk. Actually, I do want to say, I did get an email. She did this publicly. Did she do it on Twitter? I think Morenica Giwa. I can't pronounce her name. Onewu. She's a very active advocate, mostly in neurodiversity circles, a very interesting person. And she did actually reach out. She said, "Hey, Jill, I really want to talk to you about this sort of divide in the autism community between, the self-advocates and the parents." And, we talked, we had a call for like an hour, and, we talked
Well,
one on
how did
one.
that
It
go?
was so unlike, the usual like flame throwing kind of thing. It was, I enjoyed talking to her, I don't agree with her on certain topics. For example, the use of language in autism. She's very much in favor of sort of restricting the language that's allowable in autism, and I'm very much in favor of saying we need the whole vocabulary, right, to address the whole heterogeneity of autism. But I don't agree with her about that. But it was a civil conversation. She was a kind person. It was not bad. And maybe that's what we need more of. Maybe on this podcast I don't need Tom McKean. Maybe on this podcast I need Morenica, and I need people who are,
Yeah, well,
unfortunately,
I was
who
just
don't
about
who
to
go who
ask
don't
you.
have who don't go by their real names on social
Right, I was
media.
going to ask you if you would be willing to have her on the podcast. I'd
Oh
like to
yeah,
hear
of course I
that.
would. Of course I would. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
hey, what's her name?
Morenica.
Hey, Marenica out there, if you're listening out there, Jill would have you on the podcast. So if you hear us, contact her, because I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
and
it.
it's they're not the I sort of understand in a kind of a not really kind of a way where they're coming from with the language. I think they're overdoing it a little bit. I don't think I remember back when this whole autistic versus person with autism thing started back in the 90s. I was on the board of the Autism Society of America at the time, and we talked about that. I think we might have talked about this on the last podcast. I'm having some shadowy memory of that.
Mhm.
We talked about that, and there's this debate over it, and it's kind of a ridiculous debate because the answer is really easy. You just if it's something that you are concerned about, then
Mhm.
you ask the person, which one would you prefer, and go with
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And I can tell you which one I would prefer, which in my case, because I came around before any of that started, it really doesn't matter to me. I guess my preference would be that you call me Thomas, but autistic or person with autism, either one of those is okay with me. I can't tell you, they can, but I can't tell you which one is right for someone else, because I don't feel it's my place to do that. They'll tell you which one's right for someone else, but I won't do that. I'll say, what, ask them, and go
Mhm.
with what they say. That would be my answer.
It is mind-boggling how much time and energy and space is devoted to
Words and symbols.
trivial topics that have
Right.
no bearing on actually improving quality of life and outcomes for our kids. I mean, it is amazing. All of this time and energy that we should be devoting to really serious topics like what the heck is going to happen to this huge population of adults with autism as their parents age and die.
Right. And
Okay.
that's what
Job
I've
one.
been.
Let's all focus on that instead of person with autism, autistic person. But I don't
Right.
care. I don't care. It's like, it's every kind of distraction, except for what should be our absolute priorities.
Right, and I've talked about this on social media. I've said, let's address the real issues: education, employment, housing, healthcare, insurance,
Mhm.
funding, awareness, acceptance, things like
Yeah.
that. But
Yes.
if you go after the language, you go after the symbol, you go after the colors, lighted up blue, none of
That
that,
darn puzzle piece.
none of that is going to have any effect on the quality of life of the individual.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
these guys are so well organized, if they would set that aside, think about that. If these guys set that aside,
Mm-hmm.
if they went after the things that mattered, if they approached it with kindness instead of cruelty, they could change the world. They could do more than Temple and I did put together, and they could do it like that. But
I don't
they're too
disagree with
focused.
you.
They're too
I don't
focused on
disagree
the
with
other
you.
things.
Yeah,
And
it's true. I think that it's very regrettable. There is sort of a waste of energy, a waste of intellect, right? Pouring into things that are ideological red herrings, right?
right.
And not on the things that really matter. Like, imagine if we all decided to focus on the things that really matter. I mean, I agree with you, Tom.
If they
And
did
autism
that,
parents, they have a
yeah.
certain advantage. Like autism parents, those horrible, horrible people, that we are, um, you they're often completely like burning candles at both ends. They just don't have bandwidth, they don't have time, they can't travel to go advocate. They're often not on social media because like who has the time? They're doing 100 other things. I know very few of my friends are actually active on social media. Like imagine, like, and then you have this group that actually has all this time, right?
Right.
The
And the
keyboard
hundred other
warriors. I'm
things
like, come
those
on,
parents are
keyboard
doing,
warriors.
the hundred other things those parents are doing all have to do with taking care of their child.
Kids, yeah. Yeah, it really is. It is too bad. It feels like a missed opportunity. And
I
they're
think it's
choosing the
the,
wrong enemy. And
yeah.
here's the thing. Like I feel like there's a group that has taken on an autism identity. Okay, whatever works, fine. I feel like they kind of need an enemy. And like, why would you choose parents they're devoting their lives, right, as your enemy? I could think of other enemies. Like,
Okay. Who should they go after?
oh, I think we could definitely go after policymakers who are failing to create the programs and the funding streams that we need to support this disabled population. That's your enemy, not the parents who are doing their darn best. Yeah, I mean,
That's a good answer.
you know, let's all rally around that.
I think, I have said, and I still believe this, the fact that they're not they're not focusing on the things that matter. They're not approaching it the right way, as well organized as they are and as passionate as they are. I think this is the greatest loss the autism community has ever had. Because if they did, imagine what they could do. Imagine what they could accomplish
Mhm,
with the passion that they have.
mhm.
If they went after the right things and they did it the right way, they could change things.
I agree, and I think you know, there's one major impediment though that I did want to address, which is, and this is a big one. This is not a small thing. There is a conceptual, what do I call that? Contempt for severe autism that is sort of at the root of a lot of their anger. They don't like severe autism. They don't like profound autism. They don't
And I
like
know
it being
why.
in their
Would you want to,
tent.
do you know why? Because I know why.
Why?
Because if they did, they're what they're doing now is they're not even acknowledging that it exists. And the reason they're doing that is because they've claimed this as an identity. And if they were to acknowledge that severe autism existed, they would have to acknowledge that it is a disorder, or in some cases, a disability, not an identity. And if they did that, they would lose everything that they are.
Fair point. Yes,
Yes.
that's probably right. And I think that's why they try to finesse the definition of autism into something very narrow, right? And say, well, if your child has intellectual disability, or if your child has, aggression, or your child has no no daily living skills, right? That's not technically part of the autism diagnosis. So
You
therefore
can
you're out of our
you
tent.
can redefine autism. Temple Shandana and I did it back in the 90s, but there's a proper way to go about that, and the things that they're looking for, the things they're asking for, there's a proper way to go about that too. They want the puzzle piece symbol changed, and there is a way they could do that if they went through the proper channels. What they're doing instead is trying to bully their way into everything with all of these attacks, like that one that you just read a little bit
Mhm.
ago. And they're not going to get what they want with that. But if they kind of regrouped and they said, okay, let's reapproach this, let's do this the right way, they might get what they want, because some of the things they're asking for are not all that unreasonable. They're just
Yeah, well,
they're
okay,
going
let's
about it
talk
the
about
wrong
that.
way.
So, yeah, I do want to say I agree with them on certain things, but a lot of the things that they keep attacking and keep kind of broken recording about are dead horses, right? They just keep on beating things that are already dead and sometimes have been dead for a long time. I'll give you some examples, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Tom. Okay.
Okay, go
They
ahead.
berate us. They say, we're cure bees, that we want a cure. Well, I want to say, like, way back in the day when autism rates started increasing precipitously, nobody knew what was going on. Honestly, I was aware and alive back then. We didn't understand what was and we still don't understand what's feeding this incredible increase in rates of autism at all levels of
You're
autism.
right. I was
Okay.
at the vaccine hearings, and they
Okay.
talked about that.
So we didn't know, like, nobody knew. Now we know for sure it's not vaccines. Even back then, I think we didn't know, but we know it's not vaccines.
Right.
We know it's probably not anything that happens, in utero. It is a developmental condition that's not strongly genetic, however. So there's a lot that's unknown, but we do know that autism, for the most part, starts in the process of very early brain formation. We have seen research across neuroscience that has shown this time and again, that it has to do with very early development of the brain, particularly the cortex and the frontal cortex. Now, that cannot be cured, right? That is something that is
Not currently.
developmental.
We
Well,
don't we don't
even
have
with gene therapy, I don't think it'll be cured.
we
But
don't we
now
don't
we
have the
know.
knowledge or the technology to do that at this point.
I don't think we ever will. But
We don't.
but my point here, Tom, is that we've known for a while, right, that autism can't be cured. I don't know people, any parent, really, any reasonable parent out there who's saying, let's cure autism. They want to get the best outcomes they can. They want to treat, the distressing behaviors and symptoms. But no, but they keep accusing us of being cured, because I'm like, we haven't been going down that road for like 20 years, baby.
Was Autism Speaks, were they looking for a cure at one point?
Well, cure
Because that's
autism
the
now.
rumor.
Okay, there were several precursors to Autism Speaks. Autism Speaks absorbed other nonprofits, one of which was
Dan, Cure Autism
Cure
Now, things like
Autism
that,
Now.
right?
Yeah. And
I
Cure
think they
Autism Now
absorbed
was the
Dan,
name
didn't
of
they?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Was it Defeat Autism Now? That thing that
Defeat
Bernie
Autism
Rimland
Now.
had.
Yeah, that was a particular movement that was mostly biomedical.
Right.
And they were like the gluten-free people, right? And the supplement people. I know.
B6 and magnesium, if I
Yes, all
remember
that stuff. Those
correctly.
were Dan,
Yes.
and they were Dan doctors,
Right.
right? Of questionable repute, who would sometimes prescribe, hyperbaric oxygen or chelation or whatever, and all these
I
things don't
remember
work.
all of that.
Yeah. So I think there was a period where people are like, oh my God, look at all these kids that, that have this strange, disorder, and people were just throwing darts. They were throwing darts like crazy.
You know why?
People
Because it's
don't
all
do
they
that.
had. It's all they
And
could do.
they were desperate, and it was all, believe me, I didn't, and I kind of dabbled with gluten-free and casein-free. Everyone did that kind of stuff. I didn't go far down that road because it never made sense to me. But um, now we're a little bit smarter, right? Okay, so stop beating that dead horse. Okay, and another dead horse is I think about ABA. So yes, I would agree that and I think they're right about that in many cases ABA did not advance, the skills of the child and could have been stressful, perhaps even traumatic for the child. The way ABA is practiced today, though, at least, and I'm in California, I don't pretend to know everything. It's so different than like what Lovas did that you're just being completely disingenuous, porting over kind of an old concept ABA to how it's used today. Now, I think ABA it has its place, but I'm not here saying like it's be all and end all. It's definitely not. But I think that it's over vilified
Okay,
by
you're
the
right.
critics.
And let me give you another one. Let me address the puzzle piece since I was a part of that.
Please.
The puzzle piece is exactly the same. There was one in 1963, and I'm sure you've seen it,
Yep.
the crying
The
child
crying child. Yeah.
from England, right? And when we were redesigning that, well, sort of in a manner of speaking, when we were creating the logo, we were aware of that and we were aware of the problem with it. And one of the things we wanted to do is just kind of turn that whole thing on its ear. And that's one reason that we did what we did. The crying child inside the puzzle piece does kind of look hopeless, and I'll give them that. The brightness of the colors of the current autism awareness ribbon, we designed those to represent hope, which is
Mhm.
kind of the opposite of the crying child. And
Mhm.
they're still looking at the crying child. And I have said many times that
Mhm.
what's happening is they're kind of stuck in the past. The ABA that they're complaining about is the ABA of the past. The autism speaks that they're complaining about is the autism speaks of the past. And the puzzle
Mhm.
piece they're complaining about is the puzzle piece of the past. And the Asperger syndrome thing with Hans Asperger being a Nazi, which to me is up in the air. I'm not 100% convinced of that.
Mhm.
He is long dead. That's in the past. Everything that they're harping on is in the past, and they're not
No.
looking at the difference of the things today. Okay, does that make sense? I hope.
It makes complete sense, and I've noticed that. I'm like, come on, people, move on.
Right.
I just feel like they regurgitate and regurgitate and regurgitate uncritically, without really looking at the context, um, you know, of today's autism and today's families and today's approaches. And the other one we hear a lot about, I mean, we hear a lot of things, is autism parents, they want to kill their children, and they often, I don't know if we talked about this last time, Tom, I don't remember, but they often will point to, a friend of mine, Allison Singer, who's the head of Autism Science Foundation, and she had been with Autism Speaks for a long time. She was featured in a documentary film called Autism Every Day. It was
Oh,
quite
was
a
she
good
in
film.
that?
Yeah, and she
I've
made
seen
this
it.
comment. Okay, this makes me crazy. So she made this comment in the film that, after her daughter was diagnosed, remember she had a brother with autism as well. She had a history with autism, and life was very hard for her, and her daughter was in a lot of distress. And Allison made some comment along the lines of, I thought about driving off a bridge, right?
Okay,
Okay,
is she the one that
okay,
said that
and then
with her daughter right there?
yeah,
Because if I
maybe,
remember
yeah.
right, there was a problem. Someone said something kind of negative with their
I
kids, their child right there where
mhm.
they could hear it, and that caused a lot of controversy with that documentary, as I remember.
Okay. It was nuts. I think maybe her daughter Jody was there at the time. Okay, can I tell you something, Thomas? Okay,
Yes.
this is why the whole like faux controversy over Allison's completely innocent remark makes me crazy. Okay, so like I've been involved in autism forever, like president of Autism Society out here in the Bay Area I was for a long time. I was a mentor for a long time, held support groups for a long time. I've been on the phone with bajillion parents calling for information and referral. I've been president of NCSA. I've held more than 200 events for autism families. I cannot tell you how like up to my eyeballs, like autism. I talked to hundreds of families. Okay.
You would
This
not
is
do that if you didn't
okay.
care.
This comment that Allison made is an almost universal phase, a transient phase among autism parents.
You mean driving off the bridge?
Having these transient thoughts of killing themselves or killing them and their children. I am not saying, no, mind you, I'm not saying that parents want to kill their children. No. I'm saying in the dark recesses of their mind, in their darkest moments, when they are dealing with 100 different hardships and traumas, that thought crosses their minds. And I want to tell you, it is almost universal. All right. No one talks about this. I think I have to write a paper about it. I'm not saying I definitely had that thought. I remember after my daughter was diagnosed, remember I have a son who has severe autism. I have a daughter with severe autism. After my daughter was diagnosed, I was in such a dark, horrible spot. Everything felt so hopeless. I remember driving over to Santa Cruz with them in the back of the car. And again, this was a fleeting thought. I thought, what if I drove off the Santa Cruz Wharf? I mean, it was not like I would really do that. I'm not that stupid, right? And I'm definitely not that cruel, but I had that fleeting thought. Everyone does. And then, because autism parents are often in a hopeless place. So this is it's a crazy thing to be accusing parents of like, oh, you're like horrible killers. No, you have these thoughts and then you climb out.
Okay,
Every once in a while they don't climb
can I
out.
like address this from a different perspective, from the perspective of an actual person with autism?
Please do.
Well, first, it has happened. It has happened.
Mhm.
There have been parents that have driven off the bridge. It's coming to my mind.
Yes.
I can remember hearing about it, and it's happened more than once. The work that I have done over the past however many years, I have worked with parents who have told me the same story that you just did, and I have heard it countless times. And all of those parents, they're still here. Their kids are still here. They never did drive off the bridge. They have been in that hopeless situation. I have held them while they've cried. Their kids banging their heads against the wall. So I've been immersed right in the middle of that very hopeless situation that you've been talking about. As an outsider, just kind of observing it. I can't say that I know exactly what you parents are going through because I'm not a parent. I don't have a child with autism, much less severe autism. So I'm not going to say that I know exactly how you feel because I don't, but I've been with enough of you and I've worked with enough of you that even though I can't say I know how it feels, I do kind of understand and get where you're coming from. And I get that hopelessness. And I am thankful. I am very thankful that I've had that opportunity to do that work and to work with those parents and to understand this. If I hadn't have gone through that, I've wondered many times, would I be joining them? Would I be one of them? But I'm not, because I know the parents. I understand the parents because I've worked with the parents, and I know that the reason they feel hopeless is not because they don't love their kids. It's because they do. They say, my child is suffering. There is nothing I can do about it. And it hurts me as a parent to see that happen. I want to fix this. I want to make it better. I want my child to not be hurting anymore. That's where the parents are coming from. That's why they're wanting to drive off the bridge, is because they want their kids to not be hurting anymore. Not because they don't love their kids, but because they do.
It's really beautifully put, and it's very true. As I said, not every autism parent is a saint. No, none of us are perfect, and there are tragedies. I think those tragedies are few and far between. They sometimes happen when, the parent is mentally ill or in a very bad place, and they're feeling completely hopeless. But as I said, it's not only autism parents that are bad parents.
Right.
They're bad eggs everywhere. But yeah,
And something else that we should point out, since this is a podcast and people are going to be listening, those parents that do drive off the bridge, when they've done that, they have done that after looking for help and not getting any. They've gone to the agencies, they've gone to wherever, the places that they have been told to go, the places where they have been told they can get help. They have gone to these places and they have been turned away. They've fallen through the cracks.
that's
They've tried to help their kids and they weren't able to, because the agencies, the organizations either ignored them or didn't have the money or the funds or the resources to help them.
that is sometimes true. Yeah, I don't think that's always true. Sometimes a parent just cracks, I think. But I think
You
what you're saying
think?
is,
You think sometimes something
uh,
just snaps in their head?
yeah, I think it's rare, but sometimes.
That's
But
kind
I
of a
think
sad thing.
I think the question that has been coming up increasingly, and it is something that I think should concern us, is um, as parents, as the autism parents age, right, and as the children grow older, and as they face a very bleak prospect for care for their child, as we know, it's not like our Medicaid system is stepping up to the plate. People, you know, what
That's why they're driving off the bridge.
yeah, there's some concern that there will be an increase in parents driving, off the bridge, so to speak, because they are completely hopeless and they don't want to leave their child abandoned after they're gone. Now, I have yet to see that. I don't see that yet. But when you look at the demographics of the autism bubble, the parents who are in the kind of the first generation, right, of the autism bubble, they're now maybe in their early 70s, right? So we're not quite at this place where their mortality is really hitting us hard. But as more parents die, I think I would not be surprised to see more extreme measures. And obviously, I'm in the autism advocacy business because I don't want to see that. I'm in the autism advocacy business because I want people, right, to have hope for the future. I want there to be programs, right? I don't want people to say, "Oh my God, I'm going to die. My child's going to be abandoned.
Right.
Where's the gun?" I mean, that's something that's unthinkable to me.
And I get that. I have seen that. The parents, they do lie awake at night and it keeps them awake.
It
The
does.
question that I have been asked the most when I've spoken at conferences, it's the parents, they've kind of pulled me aside to this quiet little corner and they have said to me, "What's going to happen to my child after I die?" And I don't
Mhm.
have an answer for that, but I do understand that it is a question a lot of parents ask.
Every
And
parent,
again,
every parent, and
it's not because
mhm,
they don't love their kids, it's because they do. And
right,
it keeps them awake at night. And
absolutely.
especially with the more severe form, and notice that I'm using that. I don't have a problem with saying that. I don't
Mhm.
have a problem with language. I'm willing to
Mhm.
say the more severe form of autism. they're asking that question. They love their kids, and they're concerned that, what is going to happen, who's going to take care of them, because
Right.
no one's there to do that. And it's like you
Mhm.
said, the parents are in their 70s now, but as they die, more and more of these kids are going to be adults. There's what's going to happen to them.
Yeah. Well, that's the
And
question. That's the $64 billion question in autism.
right,
Right there.
I got lucky. I'm fortunate. I am the creature that lives in the basement. And if I need it, there is someone right upstairs to take care of me. And
Mhm.
I am so, so fortunate that I've got that. And I understand that. Mary, if you're listening to this podcast,
Thank you,
if you
Mary.
ever tune in, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you for giving me this space
Mhm.
at no cost, which she didn't have to do. Thank you for doing that, Mary. And I love you. And but not everyone is in that situation. And
Right.
these kids, they're going to be alone. They're going to
Mhm.
be alone, and through no fault of their own, they are not capable of taking care of themselves. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
And they're innocent, and they're human, and they have rights. And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. This is where we need to focus our energies, and not on the freaking puzzle piece,
Right.
not
Not
on,
on
like,
not on
attacking
words
you
like
for, yeah. What words?
the words autistic, person with
Oh yeah.
autism,
Yeah.
severe, profound. You're telling me they got a problem with that. You're right. This is not what we should be, because none of that is going to help those. None of that's going to help those people
I
who are
know.
going to be lost and abandoned when the parents die.
I want to make a law. I want to make a law that if you're engaged in debates over autism and what you're doing is not actually solving a problem, like a real tangible problem, you should shut up. I think that's my new law. That's Jill's law.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work, and I'll tell you why. That law doesn't work, because whether you are making a tangible difference is subjective. You would have to clearly define what tangible difference means in order for that law to be valid.
Okay.
If you can
Well,
do that, then go ahead. What can you define tangible difference?
well, you're right. It depends on the individual. So, like, for my children, a tangible difference would be either an improvement in their daily functioning, um, which is a very difficult thing to achieve, or an improvement in the care they receive. Those are the tangible differences for them. Um, Nothing else matters.
So
Um,
if you're not discussing that, then under Jill's laws, shut
Under
up.
Jill's law, yeah, either you're talking about improving functioning or improving the care.
You can't say
All the
functioning.
other stuff is like irrelevant.
Functioning's not allowed. That's one of the words, remember?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh, we never
I was
did
gonna say,
talk about that. We never did talk about functioning. We were going to do that first. Remember,
yes, I do.
the problem is with high functioning and low functioning, and they have a problem with that. And I share that with them. I have a problem with it too, and I have
Tell
from the
me your
very
problem.
I have had a problem with it from the very beginning, from the from the from the from the from the first day I walked into the ASA boardroom in '92 in Albuquerque. I've had a problem with that. But at the same time, I can't think of anything better. We do have something nominally better now. We've got the levels 1, 2, and 3.
Hmm.
That's at best marginally better, because it gives you something in between high functioning and low functioning with level 2. The actually autistics that we have been talking about are suggesting replacing high functioning and low functioning with high support needs and low support needs.
Hmm.
That doesn't work for me, because in my mind, you're just replacing one label with another,
Hmm.
and there's no
Okay.
difference.
There's a little bit of a difference. I don't like the high and low support needs because it doesn't really tell you anything. I mean, uh, someone could have
Does
high
high
support
functioning and
needs
low
but be
functioning tell you
cognitively
anything?
intact, right? And also it's not, it's no longer about the intrinsic nature of the person, right? It's about external factors,
Okay,
supports.
which one are
If we're
are we talking about high functioning and low functioning, or are we talking about
support
high
needs,
support needs and low support
high
needs?
support needs and low support needs is no longer about the person. It's about external factors. So I listen, again, this is not my debate. I don't care. I just want whatever, labels that are useful and accurate so that it fosters, meaningful and precise, accurate discussion, and therefore, changes in programs and policies.
We don't have that.
I know.
We don't
Yeah.
have that. If
We
you
don't.
look at high functioning and low functioning, if you look at high support needs and low support needs, if you look at level 1, level 2, level 3,
Mhm.
none of that'll do. None of that'll give you what you want. We don't have what you're asking for.
Listen, I mean, there's nothing right now that anybody's happy with. That I'm not
Right.
happy with anything either. But listen, but at the same time, we shouldn't do away with these things when they can provide, some level of um uh granularity, right? About the subpopulation.
Do they
Right?
do that?
Talking about the autism population as a whole is a completely useless and meaningless thing, because there's no single thread through the entire autism population. It's just too diverse. So do something, find whatever way, to characterize an individual, characterize a subpopulation.
I
To
think
me,
I
low
think that's
functioning has meaning. To me,
yes.
high functioning has meaning. I'm not saying that the people who are high functioning necessarily have happy and great lives. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that from a cognitive perspective and from a daily living skills perspective, right? They have met a certain threshold, right, that my kids will never meet. That's all. I'm not saying that like, oh, their lives are hunky dory.
Okay, see,
It just has
they
meaning.
the
It
actually
has
autistic,
meaning.
the actually autistic would have a big problem with what you just said right there. Your kids will never meet. No, they won't. And what you're doing is sounds hopeless. It sounds defeatist. It sounds eugenics. It sounds horrible mother. It
Horrible
has
mother.
that connotation, but there's also some truth to it because your kids won't.
I
You
don't
know,
live in fantasy world. I'm glad that all these
miracles don't
people can live
happen,
in fantasy world, but I don't have the luxury of living in fantasy world.
and none of the parents with your organization do have that luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to live in real world. And am I saying that I don't think my kids have any potential to learn anything whatsoever? No. What I'm saying is that
Well, your daughter likes to
realistically,
ski.
she's a really good skier.
Yeah. See,
She's awesome. And I really uh, she has surprised me, and I continue to expect to be surprised. Let's put it that way. Um, I think that our kids, oh, I don't want to, no, that's not going to work. You know what? I was going to go,
be
somewhere else with
careful
this,
what
but I'm
you
not going to
say.
do it.
People are listening.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly one to keep my opinions to myself. Listen,
Yeah,
we
I've
are
noticed
at
that.
the end of our talk here, and I've really enjoyed your insights, and your points, as always, are so real, so honest, and come from a place of really caring.
Yeah.
There's so much discourse that is so mean spirited and vitriolic, and you are the antidote to that, Tom. So we appreciate that. Now, I know what you're thinking, and you're thinking like, do we end with a song, with us playing guitar?
I went, the guitar is upstairs. I was
Okay, I think
just
we're not gonna, maybe another time, but
I will tell the people listening, I was just in it's actually, is this Monday? I think it's Monday,
Monday,
isn't it?
yeah, we're
Yeah,
taping
just
Monday.
yesterday I was in Gahanna, Ohio. I was in Gahanna, Ohio. I was on stage playing some folk music. I was
So what songs? Tell me some of them.
um, we've had kind of a strange week here at the house. There's three people living upstairs, one creature in the basement. We've had car accidents and medical emergencies, none of which thankfully involved me, but I was involved in dealing with all of that. So I really didn't have an opportunity to put anything together for this particular month. We do this the second Sunday of every month. It's an open mic, guys. If you're interested, for people with autism. It's called Band Together Central Ohio. There might be some information out there on a website somewhere. If you type it in, you might find it. I don't know. But because I wasn't able to put anything together, I had to fall back on the things I knew from playing in the coffee houses all those years ago. And I played, I can tell you what I played. I started out with a little 2.5 minute guitar harmonica kind of instrumental of Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, because I played that. I
Nice.
played that for an offertory at Unitarian Church that morning.
Hmm.
And so I played it again for them. And because I didn't have anything planned, I played poems, prayers, and promises. And my sister gave me some claves for Christmas. I had someone come up and she tapped on the claves while I played Country Roads, because if you listen to that song, that one that we played last time I was here, you'll hear claves in it. If you listen,
Okay,
you'll
I'll
hear claves
listen.
in this. Yeah, listen to that song, you'll hear the claves. So I had someone come up and play the claves while I played Country Roads, a little duet. That was kind of fun. And later on in the event, as other people got up to do whatever they were doing, we had both. We had the high functioning and the low functioning get up there and do their thing. And yeah, some were better than others, but you know what? It was all from the heart. It was all from the heart, and that's what mattered. And one guy got up there and he told me, and I didn't know this when I played it. He told me, you played my favorite song, Poems, Prayers, and Promises, and you did it well. You made me cry. And I thought that was kind of nice of him.
Oh,
So the guitar is upstairs from that still, so
okay.
we
Well,
can't
next
play.
time. Yeah, I haven't been working on too much country. The one that I've been working on lately that sort of falls into folk is Cat Stevens' Morning is Broken. Do you play that one?
It's been a while, but I have played it.
I am having fun with that. So
That's a
that's one
good
of my
song. I've
latest.
always liked that one. I like the way that it kind of I like the way that it kind of moves and
It has a key
blends
change.
between the keyboard
Yeah.
and the guitar, and it's
Oh
perfectly
yeah.
done.
Oh
It's
yeah. The
brilliantly
keys
done
on that
because
are amazing.
they make it work.
Oh yeah.
So guys, yes, it's okay if you're a parent. If you're a parent, it's okay to 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 feel um, to feel sad. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to wonder what's going to happen to your child after you're gone. It's okay to have those dark thoughts once in a while. You just kind of need to, when that happens, come back out of it at some point and continue to care for your child and not drive off the bridge. It's okay to understand that your child is severe. It's okay to know that there are things that they won't be able to do. It's okay to say that, as Jill just did a little bit ago when I told her it sounded hopeless, because even though it sounds hopeless, there's truth to it. And you're not being a bad parent. You're not wrong. You're not doing anything bad to your child, all you're doing is speaking and knowing the truth, which is that this is the situation that you are in. And I wish I could do something for you guys. I have to some extent made things a little easier for you. I wish I could do more than I've done, because I have seen firsthand what you parents go through day to day. I know you can say I don't, but I do, because I've seen it. I've seen it internationally, parent after parent after parent. I have seen what you go through day after day. I have seen what your lives are like with those kids. I have seen what you've had to do. I have changed the diapers on the adults. I have done this. I know what you are experiencing, and I will not judge you, and I will not attack you, and I will not say what you are doing is wrong. And if you want that kind of support, I'm willing to give it to you to the extent that I can. You can find me on social media. Can I blurb the social media before we go?
Please, yes.
Can I do that?
Yep.
What is it? Yeah, now I've that big buildup, and now I don't even remember what it is. It's at Facebook, guys. I have been constant requests for Twitter and Instagram and all that. Please, 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 Thomas, join us here. No, I won't. And the reason for that, it's nothing against you parents. The reason for that is because keeping track of just one social media account is complicated enough. Join me at facebook.com, type in Thomas A. McKean, all one word, standard spelling, and McKean would be McKean, Thomas A. McKean, A being the middle initial, all one word, and you should find me.
And I'll put it in the show notes too. Thank you for that incredibly beautiful soliloquy there at the end. I kind of want to write that down and frame it or something.
I did that. Yeah, I did that because I get it. I get it. I get what you parents are going through with the bullies, and I understand, and I am with you 100% that what they're doing is not right. They are attacking you for all the absolutely wrong reasons. And I understand, and I know, because I have seen it. I have seen it. I have seen it again and again and again and again and again and again. You are doing the best that you can with what you've got. You are doing the best that you can for your kids, not because you don't love them, but because you do. And I just want you parents to know that there is out there in the ether somewhere, even if it's far away from you, Central Ohio, there is someone with autism that does get it.
There is someone who understands you.
Yes.
His name is Tom.
Yes.
Well, Tom, you could go into therapy, I think, for these autism parents and charge a lot of money. I mean, listen, this is what I think a lot of parents who are beaten down and bullied, berated, just have to hear. And you speak the truth, and you speak it beautifully. And it was great to have you as our first repeat guest on Autism
I feel a
Confidential.
little
So,
honored. I've never
yeah,
been a first repeat guest.
we're honored. We're honored. And next time we'll pull out our guitars and bore everyone to death. But this was definitely not boring. And I really appreciate it. So we will sign off. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everybody.